Hello and welcome along to my first ever YouTube video. My name is Terry and today I am here at the Newark Air Museum on the border of Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire. So the channel is travel based. It will focus on days out in this country. It will focus on holidays in this country and abroad with me and my family, and also with me and my wife on our own as well, which is always nice if you can get away with it. But as I say, the first one is here at the Newark Air Museum. I only live down the road. It's the Christmas holidays. I've broken up early from work, so I thought to myself, why not come here and show you guys what it's all about. So the museum itself is based at the old RAF Winthorpe site. So if I just zoom in on the car map here, you can see obviously that is the museum itself, but the site is also occupied by, I believe, a car auction, and it is also the Newark showground now as well. So if I just zoom out a little bit more, you'll see the classic A configuration airfield that there is, and you'll even see down at this end of one of the runways is there's now a karting circuit, which looks kind of fun actually. Let's try that out one day. And just to bring that to life a little bit, if I just turn the camera there, you'll see that all the way down there is one of the old runways, and that is part of the Newark showground. So I will apologise in advance for the sound quality. At this moment in time, I don't have a microphone, and up in Newark there, it was really windy. So I am doing the rest of this sat at home. So please don't judge, guys. So a few historical facts in regard to RAF Winthorpe. It was actually opened as a bomber command station in September in 1940. And it was actually used initially by the 300th and 301st Polish bomber squadrons, who operated ferry battles from here. And it was actually a satellite station to RAF Swindeby, which is located a few miles up the road. Now, by July 1941, both of those squadrons were transferred to RAF Hemswell, further up into Lincolnshire. And in early 1942, that's when Winthorpe underwent a major reconstruction with the building of the three hard runways that you see there today, or the remnants of, as before it was just a grass airfield. For the next few years during the war, Winthorpe was used as a training station for heavy bomber crews, and it was actually the 1661 Heavy Conversion Unit which was based there. And from what I understand, young men from all over the world would descend onto Winthorpe to train on Halifax's Lancasters and Stirlings as well. It then had a brief stint of being home to Hurricanes and Spitfires, which were located there for escort training. Then as the war ended in September 1945, the Heavy Conversion Group was actually disbanded. And then post-war, Winthorpe came under the control of the RAF Transport Command and did do predominantly for the next 20 years. And I believe, if I'm right in thinking, that the station became inactive in 1959. And subsequent to that, as is usually the case with disused airfield, parts of the land was sold off bit by bit, and the Air Museum opened in 1973. So if you enter into the grounds of the museum, you'll be greeted by one of four Gloucester Meteors that are on display here in Newark. Of course, the Gloucester Meteor being the only jet fighter to see combat in World War II from the Allied side. And just to the right of that, there is, in my opinion, a rather ugly, and I've always thought it's ugly, an English Electric Canberra. One of five they've got on display here. In fact, they've got three on display, and there's two cockpit sections of this particular aircraft. Now, there's around 70 aircraft on display in Newark. Some, of course, displayed outside, but there are also two halls which house a plethora of aircraft and equipment. So even if the weather isn't particularly kind, you still can enjoy some time in the dry. So no visit to an air museum would be complete without the iconic sight of the Vulcan bomber, an absolute beast but an absolute beauty at the same time. This particular aircraft, XM594, was part of the 44th Squadron and was originally based at RAF Waddington. now home of the Red Arrows. Now, I'm not sure when this particular plane was flown into Winthorpe, but on the inside of one of the hallways, there is some dialogue around when it did actually arrive. It arrived on a very, very cold February. It was absolutely lashing it down with snow, and the museum had to get in some of the aluminium track to get the plane to its final standing place, as the ground was really soft. Now, there is the opportunity to look inside the Vulcan as well. So as you can see here, I took a nice look inside the bomb bay, and you can only begin to imagine the type of ordnance that would have been stored here and carried, and the type of damage it could have done should it have ever been required. And for a small fee, you can get access to the cockpit as well, although on this particular occasion, I didn't bother. And then just to the right of the Vulcan, there is the engine hall, a nice array of machinery in here. Anything on display here from Daimler-Benz piston engine all the way through to the Rolls-Royce Olympus, which of course powered Concorde. And then just up from the Vulcan, a couple of larger aircraft to note. This first one being the Avro Shackleton. Of course, this being a development from the Avro Lincoln bomber, which in itself was a development from the Avro Lancaster bomber. And then sat next to that, a rare specimen, I would say, and I've never seen one before, but a Handley Page Hastings. And I'm pretty sure, and I think I'm right in saying, unless I read the information board completely wrong, that this actual aircraft was involved in the Berlin airlift. Always nice to see something from the French contingent, of course, and here we have the Dassault Mystère, and sat next to that, just to the right, is the North American Super Sabre. I am a fan of American fighter jets, and I'm also a fan of their naming conventions as well. I'm not going to lie, I was very, very glad to get into the first hall to get away from the cold weather and the biting wind, which was present on the day that I visited. In the first hall, you are greeted by this very strange Lee Richards annual biplane, which is a replica, I believe. It's obviously not the real thing. But as you can see, as I scan around the hall, you'll see the type of aircraft and the selection of aircraft memorabilia that is on display. Did like this example of this de Havilland Dove in BEA colours. I thought it was pretty cool. Now here is something that you do not see every day, a MiG-23 and a MiG-27. I don't think I have seen any form of Soviet hardware displayed in any Western museum, air museum, whatever museum. I was very surprised to see them and also very intrigued as well, but it's something completely different and it's quite interesting to see. By this point, the doorway to the second hall was a welcome sight. I was ready to warm myself up yet again. As we go into this second hallway, you have aircraft such as the Harrier jump jet. There is another example of a Gloucester Meteor. There is a Buccaneer, to name a few. And also, as you'll see very, very shortly, a selection of missiles, which I thought was pretty cool as well. But again, all well maintained, all very nicely displayed, and very, very interesting and very educational. By this point then, we'll be getting round to the last few exhibits as you come out of the hallway before we get to the cafe for a much needed cup of hot coffee. Just before we get to the cafe, you will have two more Canberras to feast your eyes on. You'll have the Fairy Gannet, you will have the Jaguar, and you will also have the beautiful Lightning. And it was at that point that I was very much in need for a cup of coffee. So, the Newark Air Museum, would I recommend a visit? Yes, I absolutely would. It's very reasonably priced at £11. If you've got a spare couple of hours, if you're travelling up the A1, if you're travelling down the A1, or if you're local to the area, I'd highly recommend paying it a visit. The cafe was fantastic and the millionaire shortbread was absolutely spot on. But a big shout out to the volunteers who work there every day and maintain all of the aircraft and keep everything ticking along. So As I say, that was my first YouTube video. Apologies if it's not as slick as it probably could be. Hopefully I'll get better as I go along. But if you do want to see more content like this, please do like and subscribe. And if you want to leave a few comments, have you been to Newark Air Museum? Have I missed some things? Is there anything that you've noticed that I didn't capture? Please let me know. Other than that, I shall see y'all in the next one.